Great to have you with us. Now, Australia's property slump has claimed another victim as receivers move in to sell off a recently completed apartment complex in Epping in Sydney.
It's feared more buyers will have to cancel contracts on land and apartments as tightening credit conditions and falling prices continue to take hold. Buyers agent Rich Harvey of propertybuyer.com.au joins us now with more. Rich, great to have you with us today.
Thanks, Sophie.
Now, this apartment complex, Elisi in Epping in Sydney, is being sold in one line. What's the likelihood of finding a buyer for all 61 apartments at once?
It's going to be challenging. I mean, I think there'll be a few more of these opportunities coming up for bigger investment groups. So it could be a self-managed super fund, it could be an overseas pension fund, it could be a large investment house that's taking a counter-cyclical approach to buying investment properties in one group. But they're not going to buy it at market value, that's for sure. They'll be buying it at a discount to market value because they're going to be holding it for the long term.
And what would market value be? I mean, the one bedders were selling for sort of 680, some of the two bedders 880. I mean, this is with 62 apartments. This is a lot of money we're talking. Well,
absolutely. I mean, the market's come back sort of 10 to 15% in different parts of Sydney. Every suburb is different. You can't. I mean, there's a global number of around 11 to 10% drop in the Sydney in the market. But areas like Epping or Parramatta, or areas where there's a large potentially oversupply of units, the market's come back even more. So, a valuation on these units will probably come in about 15 to 20% below what it is even today in order to get them actually moved. So the developer really has to, say, look, I just want to get my money out and move on rather than actually lose money in that development.
Now, this is the first time on this show we've seen, I don't know how many you're seeing of this type of the whole block going, where developers are obviously stretched with other jobs or whatever they've got going on to have to put it on at once rather than sort of lower prices of apartments and start moving
There's not that many of them, to be honest, at this stage. I think there could be a few more, particularly the second half of the year, once the pain really hits. But I think we're talking about sort of an isolated case here of units in one potential area of oversupply. I think there's a lot of great developers out there that have really good developments in prime areas. They will still sell, and they will still sell for good prices. It's only the areas where there's oversupply that these developers will struggle to sell.
So this could happen in other cities too? Sydney's obviously not the only
absolutely,
place.
It definitely could happen. I mean, anywhere in the world it can happen. If it's the law of supply and demand. You know, if there's an oversupply of units and the market's down, but we've got a lot of conditions, unfortunately, in our market that are very challenging. We've got very, very tight credit supply, and the banks are being very, very strict on who they're lending money to. They're still lending money, but it's a lot tougher. And also for developers getting money for developments. That's where the real challenge, and I think that's particularly why this particular developer has chosen to sell in one line. They could have 4 or 5 other jobs on the go, and they need to improve their cash flow, get out of this development and move on to their next one.
Now, the market relies on developers being optimistic, doesn't it? It relies on developers thinking, I'm going to build this great building and people are going to pay for it. And then when it doesn't happen, we're pretty quick to blame the developers. But, what happens to our housing industry if people don't have the chutzpah to get off the ground and do things like this?
That's a great question, Sophie. I mean, developing is a risky business. It's absolutely risky business, and it's not for everyone. So anyone out there thinking, I'm going to be a developer and make millions, take a cold shower and think again, and link up and just work with a developer who's done it, and you'll see the challenges and the stress and how much they lose doing their developments. It is a challenge for the market because what's tending to happen now is, we've had a boom period where a lot of developers have gone, great prices are up, we've had a lot of overseas migration, we've had a very buoyant market, so there's a lot more development happened than perhaps needed to happen. And as we go through this next correctional phase, we'll probably, undershoot what's actually needed to be built, and we'll probably build up a deficit. I mean, 5 or 6 years ago, we had a deficit in New South Wales of around 30,000 dwellings, and that was significant, and that's what's helped to create the boom in Sydney. We played catch up for a long period of time. Now we're still a little bit in deficit. We're not quite out of the woods in terms of the number of dwellings we need, but just watch this space because as the market sort of retracts, developers retract, that'll build up a pressure again of demand, which will lead to price pressure down the track. It's not going to happen next year, but over the next 5 years you'll see that come back again.
I read during the week there was particularly some big names in developments like Mirvac and Lendlease, and they're talking about them because these guys are known for quality developments and have a brand. So do you think that now with these massive amounts, are we hearing the term fire sale? And if these bargain apartments are available through different developers, like the one we're seeing in Epping, is it a good time for investors to swoop in and get a bargain?
I think it's a really great time. The next 6 months, I think, is going to be an opportune time for investors and home buyers to capitalise on a softer market. Developers need cash flow. and they need to sell properties. So they want to transact. They're not going to do necessarily fire sales. I mean, I know, for example, at the top end of the market, I went and saw an $11 million property the other day, and the developer's knocked the offer back because he can just hang on. He's just going to wait for a $12 million offer. But, you know, where we're talking about an $800,000 two-bedder in a good area, that developer might have 50 of them and need to move them. So it's a really good opportunity for investors and home buyers to make good offers as long as they've got finance approval and can complete. No point making an offer if you can't complete on it, but absolutely a really good time to be making some offers.
People are a bit nervous about brand new apartments and off-the-plan sales at the moment, though, too, aren't they? Especially with what happened with the Opal Tower and seeing what's happening with this particular complex in Epping. That nervousness is justified, do you think?
Well, I think it's always, you know, one particular case gets blown out of proportion, and it's obviously extremely unfortunate for all the residents of the Opal building that they've moved in and this major structural issue has happened, but I believe there's a repair can be done through the engineer's report. I think the key to any person buying off the plan, it shouldn't scare people away completely, but there is another level of due diligence you have to do. So my advice would be buy from a quality developer that's building in the right location. Make sure you investigate the specifics of the finishes on the building. And with the new strata schemes, any developer must have a 2% bond held in trust. So if there are any issues like that, there is money to fix it. Because the worst thing is you move in and there's no money to fix it. So, or the developer goes bankrupt or builder goes bankrupt. So I think for any buyer out there, yes, it's still a opportunity to buy off the plan, but again, be careful. It's not a no-go area, but I think absolutely be very, very careful about what you're buying and where you're buying.
Are you seeing this flow on? I mean, we've been talking about apartments, and you only have to drive around parts of Sydney and parts of Melbourne to see, I can say, apartments everywhere. Do you see that flowing on into land sales as well? I mean, it is a different market.
They're different markets, though. No, I think they're very distinct markets. Definitely the mood of the market, it has an effect on sentiment, absolutely, and the sentiment's been affected, as we know, by banking, Royal Commission and tight credit. But if there's slower sales in apartments, yes, it does flow on partly to land sales, but they're very different locations. I mean, land sales out at Kellyville Ridge versus down in Camden in the south or Leppington in the west, they're all very, very different markets and driven by very, very different factors. So they're more targeted, particularly the first home buyer market, someone wanting to get their piece of earth in Sydney, and I think those markets have certainly come back a bit as well.
And do you think that's changed since January, where we had the sort of a change in direction, a little bit of a lightning?
Since January, but since last year.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely had an effect. Probably prices have come back 5 to 10% on those land prices as well. So again, if you're buying in those areas, just do your due diligence on what are the most recent comparable sales, because especially first home buyers, you don't want to go into a position of negative equity. You want to make sure you pay a fair price. And I think that's one of the messages I've been trying to get out there as a buyer's agent, is that people can still overpay in this market. You don't know the depth of discount. We've been getting some amazing discounts for our clients recently and negotiating really great prices. So it really pays to get good advice.
But do you worry about people cancelling their contracts for land sales? I mean, that's where it could be felt, couldn't it? If these credit conditions worsen and if more lending availability doesn't sort of increase in the coming months, will it flow on to sort of new house and land packages, and then does that affect the construction industry as a whole? What's the bigger picture here?
Well, I think if people firstly are going to cancel their contracts, they've got to take a good hard look at that, because they're going to lose 10% deposit. So you've got to make sure, well, if you're going to lose, let's say you bought a house and land package for $700,000, $750,000, you could be losing $75,000. So you've got to ask the question, is it really worth that? Or am I going to be holding this property for 10 or 15 years and ride out the cycle? So that's the individual decision. Your other question about how does it affect the broader market? Absolutely. The sentiment at the moment is quite challenging. There's a lot of developers who've bought large tracts of land to sell and subdivide. Their sale rate will be a lot slower the next 2 years, but I think after that period of time it will start to pick up again. So for anyone who wants to be opportunistic, now is a really great time to make a good offer and perhaps hold it for the longer term.
And how much stock do you think we need in Australia? I mean, we've seen how much they've been talking about now. As you've said, there's not enough population growing. Are we at a moment now where we're sort of, is it stable?
Yeah, I researched that question because I knew you'd be asking it. But housing stock, we've typically been building on average just under 200,000 dwellings a year. Right. So that's what we typically need to balance supply and demand. So during the boom in 2017, we actually had 233,000 dwelling commencements. but the forecast from Biz Shrapnel is that it'll go down by 2020 to about 160,000. So that's below what we actually need to sustain demand. And as I said at the beginning earlier, that will then build up the pressure of demand, which will then put pressure on prices down the track. So it's just the typical flow of the property cycle. Markets tend to overshoot and undershoot. It's a bit like a steam train. It takes a while to build up a head of steam, and then it takes a little while to unwind. So I think, you know, we do need to keep building properties, and the banks, the government, everyone realises that we still need more demand. We have strong immigration. We have migration rate of around 240,000 migrants per annum. They need homes. There's natural population increase. We all need homes. We're all not going to, you know, move into one-bedroom units. So, and there's a great variety of housing in Australia. So I think the bottom line is, yes, we still need more housing stock, and we need good quality stock. So the message for everyone at home is buy quality.
We are back in auction season, and housing stock is making way to come back on the market.
Hooray for that. Now, to help any home stand out from the crowd, we're joined by Justine Wilson, Director with Vault Interiors, for her top tips on how to get your house market ready. Justine, welcome. Great to have you
having me. Great to be back. Yes, love being here.
Now, on average, how long does it take to get a house ready for market?
It varies on how your property is and the state it's in. If it's an empty property, it's pretty straightforward, 1 to 2 weeks, and you can have your property styled and market ready. And I think now with the market the way it is, more than ever, you really want to stand out and make your property stand out against the competition. If it's a property you're living in, we do a lot of partials. The process is a little longer because we have to advise homeowners on what to store, what items to bring to enhance their home. So allow a couple of weeks to get your property market ready, and then I think you're good to go.
Now, you make a really good point there about a partial, because some people, you can tell, I mean, we can tell very clearly, but you can tell when you walk into a property that's completely styled all over, because sometimes it doesn't necessarily feel real or warm, but the partial is when you're using people's items that are existing and basically sprucing it up with everything else.
Exactly, and look, I'd say it's 80% of properties we style, because it's not always feasible for a homeowner to move everything out and fully style the property. People have kids and dogs, and what we do as stylists is we can advise. It could just be simple tweaks. It could be the right scale furniture, it could be the right art and dressings to enhance that buyer demographic. So we advise that we'll bring in the items, and if you can store items in the garage, that's not an issue.
Correct.
A lot of people do that, but if you give yourself that little added advantage and you style your property right, presentation's key. It's going to make a difference.
Now, presentation starts on the outside, really, doesn't it? So you talk about curb appeal. What is that, and how do you get it?
Sure, curb appeal. Look, if your property looks freshly painted, gardens are nice, there's a direct path up to the property, it's going to make your listing stand out again. Buyers will drive by often before they do an open, so if they do a drive by and the property is looking a little worse for wear, it might make them nervous and they might not go to the open. So having that amazing facade is really important, I think.
I also think, you know, we live in such a digital world. Some people are deciding whether to come to see your property by those images of the facades from the first place. So it's now more important than ever, don't you think?
It's another reason why property styling is so key, because it helps your online marketing. If buyers are scrolling through the hundreds of listings and they see an empty property, they can't scale that up or envision whether a double bed will fit or whether it's a decent living space unless they physically see the furniture. It creates an aspirational living to scenario and emotional connection. So if they see a beautifully styled home, they're more likely to come to the open, look at the property, and then therefore bid at auction.
Yeah, well, that brings us to our next point. Is what's on the inside that really counts? and how do we make the inside look particularly inviting? Sure,
it really depends, again, on the property. A great stylist will tap into the right buyer demographic. Because we work so closely with agents, we know how to enhance the home's best features. If it's a period home, we might use period-style furniture that's going to enhance that element. If it's a coastal property, we might bring in watery elements, earthy elements. It's not just selling that property, it's selling the lifestyle the property brings to you. So good styling will always create that lifestyle and that aspirational living scenario.
You make a couple of really good points there, in particular the decluttering. We're seeing that, you know, the trend of condo going around, but it's something that we've always wanted to do, and we tend to have more things in our homes when we live in it, but we don't want to see it when we're looking to buy.
And look, a lot of buyers, this is where vendors, the hesitation's there because they think, I'm used to the property the way I've had it, I like my family photos, but there's an element where you have to detach and depersonalise, and the reason being is you want to appeal to the broadest buyer pool. So if you've got to take away those personal elements, put in abstract elements that appeal to a big demographic, because you really want to sell that property to other people.
Yeah.
Well, this is some examples of your work that we're looking at here now, and Is this sort of a partial stuff, or is this stuff you've done from scratch?
The two you're showing at the moment, they would be empty properties, so what we call a full style. A few partials will come up. You'll notice the partials, they tend to have a little bit more layers, so the books, maybe more plants, maybe the furniture's a little more mismatched. However, the stylist will work really closely with the owner to create a scheme throughout and make it really presentable. So those small tweaks make a massive difference.
Now, for people watching at home, I love to sort of give tips to people who are maybe, some people are looking to do this by themselves and not have us or you. You leave the lights on. You like to have that warm, sort of more moody, warm light throughout.
Look, natural light. The first thing an agent will do when they go to a property is go through and open all the windows to let in the natural light. Ambient light's really important, and task lighting. So have all the lights on. Declutter any personal effects such as photos or mess or paperwork. A few bright cushions and nice artwork are going to neutralise the home and appeal to a broad market. The other thing you can do is look, just little touch-ups, so make sure the paint works neat, make sure the flooring's clean. People are busy, and move-in ready is really important. If you want a premium price, then you've got to have a premium property. So.
And when you're putting together furniture pieces, I mean, you are, as you said, working with some of the things that they've got already.
Yes.
How much do you take into account obviously the location of the property and the style of the architecture?
It's paramount, and a really good property stylist will know this. It's all about the buyer demographic and the lifestyle. So it's not, as I mentioned, it's not just what's on trend in the catalogues, interior design. It's what's that property and its surrounding suburb and environment going to offer you. So, as I mentioned, if it's like an industrial warehouse, you really want to have eclectic, quirky furniture that's going to show to a buyer, that's the kind of lifestyle I'm going to have here. It's funky, and they're going to attach to that, and it's going to make the property stand out as well. So.
Do you have to tread carefully around people's feelings, like when you sort of walk into their house and say, oh, that's got to go and I don't like that?
Sometimes, absolutely. Look, I think there's a bit of psychology involved in property styling, and a great stylist is going to make people feel comfortable. It's not a personal attack on their furniture. They may have beautiful pieces, but they may have the scale and function wrong. You might have a giant, expensive king living sofa, but if 15 buyers can't walk through into the dining room, it's useless. So this is where we advise that, look, the piece is great, but if we do a three-seater and there's better flow and circulation, it'll make the property feel larger. So as long as we can justify why we're making the changes, people are pretty open to it.
We're looking at some more of your beautiful images here. Very structured, isn't it? The use of sort of ornaments, and there's a reason for everything, isn't there?
Groups of accessories, clusters of accessories, and it's simple tweaks. Look, for those that are on a budget and want to do it themselves, fresh flowers, nice ornaments, again, taking anything really personal out of the property, and then tying in accent colours. So if you've got, like I mentioned, a waterfront property, bring in some blues, bring in some teals, repeat that colour with the cushions, with the artwork, then you'll have a scheme that's really appropriate. I think with a professional stylist, of course, we're going to add value because we have the catalogue and range, the big warehouse full of stock, so we can achieve many styles, which is why we suggest to engage a professional.
And on that point of adding value, how much do you think, I'm completely on your side, I want to hear you saying it.
Sure.
How much value do you think that you're adding with styling? Because, people are watching their money, the market's sort of slipped a little bit. How much value do you see that it adds?
Look, I understand that people are nervous, and when you're getting a home ready for sale, it can feel like just a lot of outlay with the painting and the marketing and the styling, but I always say it's an investment. All that money you're putting up front, you'll definitely see when you come to sell the home. You're more likely to sell the home because you're attracting more buyers to the door. And also, as I mentioned, for premium price, you've got to have the property looking move-in ready for buyers. So it definitely adds value. The figure's roughly around 20 to 25%, which is massive when you're thinking about the small investment that property styling can achieve. The other thing that I put my money where my mouth is.
Great.
My last 3 properties, I've moved truckloads of furniture out of my own home, brought in my own styling furniture, and achieved record results. Happy to share the links to show how it works, but it really makes a difference in actually selling that home.
Can you put any sort of numbers on the table now, and not necessarily your own, but in terms of other people's properties? Where have you, and from talking to agents?
Well, I'll use my own as an example because I just sold it last year. It was a property in Newtown, so I had bought it for 1.3 million, just did a simple paint, got the gardens right and staged it, and sold it a year later for 1.8. So that was no major
And this is in a falling market.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
It was no major structural work. It was all just cosmetic. It was just presentation. So people could see the lifestyle they would get from that property.
And look, you know, I find when I'm talking to my clients, sometimes people get the analogy of, do you realise how different your face looks with a little bit of eyeliner or the right clothing with your hair colour or whatever?
Makeup,
and people understand that, because it's particularly ladies, because they dress every day.
Right.
And sometimes underestimate the value of exactly the same rules onto a residential property.
It's just like going to a job interview, really. I mean, presentation and first impressions count, so you want to give your property the best foot forward. You're going to get more buyers through the door. There's going to be more competition, especially with the market shift. I think it's really important to convince buyers why, no matter what happens, that this is a great suburb, a great lifestyle, and something that they aspire to. If it's desirable, they're going to buy it.
Yeah, 100%.
Very true.
Really good tips. I could talk beautiful styling things with you all day. And as always, we say to everyone at home watching images like yours and seeing all of the open homes, how they are presented is giving you tips to how to present your home, whether you're selling or not. So it's always worth seeing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Beautiful.
Love talking property.
Don't we all? Justine Wilson from Vault Interiors. Thank you so much for your time today. We're about to go to our first live auction in Castle Hill. Just to refresh your memories, we spoke with agent Paul Conti a short time ago. This was 4 Tuckwell Road in Castle Hill. It's a deceased estate. The man who's living in the home and passed away had no children, so it went to probate, and then it went to his brother, who's 94 years old, as the administrator of the will. It's a true public auction, so they haven't given a price guide, but our estimates put it at about 1.1. Bids are being called for now.
Let's jump over to this auction. It's very exciting.
1-1 with 850, the call here on the right-hand side. Moving up to 50s if we can now. Number 11 here on the right-hand side at 850, the call at $850,000. Great buying there any day of the week at $850,000. Happy to take a 50 on top. Where do we go from here?
875, James.
875. Can you give me a 50 on top, or the negotiation's already started? We'll take a 25 and the option straight back to you at 900, sir, if you like. Been relegated to second position, not where you'd love to be, I'm sure. 875 in front of you here now at 875 the call. $875,000, 9 at the back it is. At 900,000, 2 people bidding at the same time. Who wants 9? Who wants 925? Arm wrestle it out. 900 it is. 900. Great to see you at an auction again. I know you've been at a few looking for the perfect property, and hopefully you found it here today at $900,000. Glad we sorted that little dispute out there at 900 the call now at $900,000. At 900 it is. Back to you, sir, if you'd like, at 925 at $900,000. The lady who I've seen at many auctions over the last 6 months.
On the paddle? On the paddle?
On the paddle if we can there. Just need that 950 it is. You see that on the paddle at 950 now at $950,000 at 950 the call. Nearly a quarter of an acre block here. Of course, you could throw a pool in the back there, or maybe a granny flat subject to council approval, of course, but plenty of upside here. Chance to renovate or just rent out as is. A very functional floor plan. 950 the call here on the left-hand side now. I don't believe it. Could be the steal of the century here. If there's no further bids, we'll call it through at $950,000 once. 975 it is. 975 here on the left-hand side at 975. Is that a mill at the back there? Mill at the back at 975 in front of you? 975? 1 mil. 1 mil, a great addition there at $1 million, taking the brick, taking it around the corner. Use those intimidating numbers as a practice of intimidation to scare people off. Of course, everyone... $1,050,000 it is. At 1050 the call now. At 1050 the call now. Is our starter finished there? Where's long legs 11? He started it off. Surely, sir, you see value. $1,075,000 it is. At 1075 the call. Just on the paddle if we can there, mate. At 1075. Great buying at 1075 now. 4 Tuckwell Road will be sold today, ladies and gentlemen, at $1,075,000. 1-1 it is. At $1.1 million now. 1-1 the call here. Great to see. I know you've been in the market for a while, and this could be your day. Mark my words, ladies and gentlemen, we all come to these things with a budget, with a line in the sand, and sometimes you've got to push yourself that little bit further to secure your future. If you come with me here, I can guarantee you'll be smiling here. 1125 the call it is now here on the right-hand side. A new contender, of course, lots of tactics, lots of strategy at auction. Maybe I'll wait and jump in at the last minute. The best strategy that works every time is being the last bidder. That seems to get it sold every time. So just bid strong. 1150 the call it is. 1150 now. At $1,150,000. Lots of people interested. 1.2, a strong bid there, sir. Good to flex the muscle, and maybe you've scared them off. I don't think so, though. At 1.2, the call now. At $1,200,000 here. What an exciting time to transact property here in Sydney in 2019. I can guarantee you one lucky party will look back to the second day of the second month of 2019 and smile and say, wow, what a great decision I made and what a great purchase. Paul Conti and Joel Simpson helped me transact here. 1250, was it? I'll take a 25. Do you want to do 25? 1225? 20 it is. I'll take your 10 if you like, and 1230. 1220 against you now. 1230 if you'd like it. 1220 against you now. Should we call it 1230? 1250 it is. Someone wants it, and he's trying to scare them off. Don't be scared away. Everyone's got their limits at 1250. The call now. 1.25 it is. At $1,250,000. I don't believe it. If there's no better bids, I'm going to call it through. $1.25 million. Once. 1275. Great to welcome you back into the bidding, madam, at 1275. The call now. And 1275 on the right-hand side. Few people still haven't held their paddles up. Your chance is now. If you're waiting for the 11th hour, it literally is the 11th hour. Well, it's the 10th hour of the day, but we're getting very close to the last minute here at 1275. Let's call it 1.3. 1.3. Flex the muscle, sir. 135. 135, the call.
1280.
Interesting strategy, going from strong to weak, sir. They'll know you're weakening. Should we say 1.3? Surely 1.3, sir. There's great value there at 1.3. You've been doing 50s and 25s. If you let everyone know you've only got 5 left, they're going to jump on top of you. Come on. Let's call it 1.3. I'm just the man in the middle. 85. A 10's not bad. 1.285 the call now. $1,285,000. Nearly 1,000 square metres here. Huge potential. So close to so much. And of course, well, the upside of development potential in the future as well. Very rentable and livable as is right now. 4 Tuckwell Road, ladies and gentlemen, at 1.285 the call. A few ums and ahs. I don't want to bring the hammer down because I can see some uncertainty in your eyes there, ma'am. Happy to take a 10 on top, offering the same, Kurt. 1.290 it is. 1.290 now. What was your bid there, sir? 1.3? 1.3 with 11? 1.290. Oh, 1.290. 1.290. Apologies, sir. 1.290. Long legs 11 back in the race. Great to see you, sir. You started it. You could be finishing it. That's what I like to see. Confidence at the start and the finish of an auction should be rewarded, ladies and gents. At 1.290 the call. 1.3 it is. Someone had to take it there. That's the thing about those round numbers. If you push past them, you scare away your competition and take control of the auction, which this savvy investor has down the back there at $1.3 million. If there are no better bids, I'm going to have to call it through at $1,300,000 once at $1.3 million. 1.305 it is. 1.305 the call. Happy to offer the same courtesy back to you, ma'am, and say 3.10 if you want it. About to lose it there at 1.305. Hate to see you lose it here. You've been relegated to second position at 1.305. If there are no better bids, we're calling it through at $1 million.
5 more.
3.10 it is. 3.15. 3.15 with you, sir. 3.15 it is at 1.315 the call at 13.15 here. Back with number 11 here. Long legs our starter. Could be securing this property. I'd love to see you get it, sir. At 1.315. We're going to call it through at 1,300,000. 1.320 it is. 13.20 the call. Should we say 13.30 and scare her off, sir? What do you think? 13.33 to have a bit of fun with the contract? All the threes were the one in front. To double check. We're definitely selling. 135. I was looking at you before thinking, that's a lovely paddle, a lovely couple of ladies that haven't bid yet, and you're going to jump in at the last minute. Why not? At 13.50 the call. Great buying at 1.350 now, $1,350,000. Hate to see you miss out on it, sir. 1.355 the call. What do you think? At 13.50 against you. You can see the social proof. That's the beauty of the auction process. You can see everyone around you transacting in transparency. 1.355 the call at 13.55. How about a 13.88? 13.88's got a nice little look to it on the contract at 13.55 here. A few people battling it out. It's almost a marathon here getting through this one, ladies and gents, because there's so much registered interest in this sensational property. Of course, we have got 6 Drayton coming up as well after this, if you would like to check that out. Another great opportunity with all the team at Ray White Castle Hill. But this property must be sold here today at 13.55. Great buying at 1.355. Sometimes the 5s don't scare them off. Chuck a 20 or a 30 on top. 13.55, I'm going to call it through at 1.355 to call once. 13.70 it is. 75 if you'd like at 11. I'll get you back in the race. I'd hate to see you miss out. 13.70 against you now. 13.70 against you, sir. 13.70 over here. 1370, so I can take that 5 on top, give the opportunity to jump back in at 1375. 1370 against you, calling it through. Are you finished there, sir? Just checking with all the competition. You're definitely done there. Under the canopy there, you're finished. Number 11. All right, a few people having a bit of a think. Don't want to rush these things, but at the same time, we can't spend all day on back and forthing. You snooze, they lose, they say. So 1370 down the back there with number 15 at 1370 the call at 1370. Sometimes, I've said it before, you've got to push yourself that little bit further. You've got to look deep within yourself and say, can I push myself an extra 10, 15, 20? So I guarantee you will look back and smile upon the second day, the second month of 2019 and think, wow, I really did transact well that day and created a great opportunity for myself. 1380 the call now at 1380. Should we call it 1-4 at the back there? The 5s aren't scaring him off. The 15 didn't work either. So let's try 20 on top and call it 1.4. 1380 now on the right-hand side it is. 90 it is at 1390 the call. Someone's going to go there. Who's going to take me there at 1-4 if you want it? 1390. You're going to miss it. At 1390 the call. At $1,390,000 once. $1,390,000 twice. At 1390 the call. Third and final call. We finished there, Paul.
1,000.
Making us work for it today at 1391. You started it off and you have got 2 1s in your bidders number there, sir. So long legs 11 coming in with a 1 leg of 1 on top. At 1391 the call now. 1391.
1.4.
1.4. Certainly didn't scare him off. I'll take the 1,000 again if you like. 1401 at 1.4. We had to go there eventually at $1.4 million now. At 1.4 the call. At $1,400,000 worth it every day of the week. Look at the fight you have to go through. That's the great thing when it comes your time to pass this property on to the next family. You know there'll be an equal group of people fighting for a big slab of Castle Hill like this. 1/4 of an acre, the great Australian dream right here, right now. Your choice at $1.4 million. Bid now or forever miss out. Once, twice, third and final call. All finished.
Wait. 500. Yep.
500 or 5,000? 500. I love bargaining, but we're not at Aldi. We are transacting property here. We'll take the 500 at $1,400,000 with 500 on top. Should we say 1420? 1420 at the back there. As they weaken, you strengthen. That's how you transact property.
1,405.
1,405. That's the sort of 5 I like to work with there. At 1,405 the call now. I like your approach there, Long Legs 11. It is a great way to transact. There's nothing sweeter than that beer or wine at the end of a Saturday knowing you paid $1,000 more than your nearest competition. That's what I do love about the auction process, the social proof, the transparency. You can see exactly where and who your competition is and how you can get in front is as simple as bidding above them. The 1405 the call. Where are we at there, Paul? We happy to let it go? 1405 against you now, 405. So they're in front there at $1,405,000. Chuck a 5 on top. 1410, what do you say, sir? Bit of deliberation there. Don't want to rush it through. Thanks for all your patience. And of course, don't forget to jump onto the Ray White Castle website. Check out some of the incredible opportunities in property they've got right now. At 1405 is the call, sir. Happy to let it go. I tell you what, give us 1,000 on top and I won't bother you again. How about that? That sound believable? Hey? What do you think, $1,000 on top, sir? All right, going to call it through. At $1,405,000. Calling once, twice, third and final call. We are selling. We are selling. What's he got? I'm going to sell it, sir. You've been given due warning, and I'm going to sell this property right now. I know you're still in the race, so give us at least 1,000 on top. You would have left by now, sir, if you weren't. So, should we call it 1406? Happy to do 1406? Going to call it through, Paul? He's done? Finished? Beautiful. We are selling at $1,405,000. We are selling, just giving everyone equal opportunity to jump in here. Anything above except the nothing below. We are selling here. We are selling. We are selling. Sold to you. Broken the gavel. Excellent.
Well, that's what we like, a good lively auction, isn't it?
Smashing expectations and the gavel all at once. Amazing.
He got super excited.
He certainly did.
1405, starting off at 850 with the first bid there for a red brick, pretty basic home, but great block of land.
Great block, great location, and great crowd, wasn't it?
Really good crowd.
Rainy old day in Sydney today.
Yeah, they had
Plenty
it
of
covered
people
just in
turning
case.
out. Absolutely. Look, just to show you what a good sale that was, because we had no price guide ahead of the auction.
Keeping the cards close, weren't they?
They were. Oh, sorry. We can see. Oh, I just missed that opportunity to look at these successful bidders in the wall. No, I didn't. Here we go. Oh, there's the crowd there, and commiserations and
look at him.
congratulations going
Paul
on
Conti there, the agent. I think he's been smiling all day.
Yes, he was very
21
excited
years in
about
the biz.
auction. He certainly was. Now, so we did one of those sort of, because they wouldn't give us a price guide ahead of time on this one. So I did one of those kind of online searches, and it was put at about 1.1 in value for that property. And having a look back through the CoreLogic records of other houses that have sold on the street that are similar sized blocks, 47 Tuckwell sold in July 2018 for 1.465.
Great.
But that was, a big 4-bedroom house with a pool, like
a substantial more Castle Hill type
a house
home.
Twice the size of that, with a pool as well on the same size block, and a much more up to date home. So that's just less than 7 months ago. Sold for only $65,000 more than that. 86 Tuckwell Road sold in July 2017 for 1,560, and again that's a substantial 4-bedroom family home, 2-storey house. So obviously somebody really had their eyes on this block and really want to build their dream.
True,
right,
but I do know this suburb too, Sophie, and I know it's not zoned as yet, but it is literally just around the corner from where everything's happening. So you've got the main strip of shopping, the massive Castle Hill shopping centre, and that huge development of the train station. So I think block size and location has pushed it over the line.
All right.
Really good. Well done, great.
Great stuff.
We love good auctions.
What a good way to kick off our live auctions for the day.